So let's
And
just jump into it. And
yeah,
we
please, let's go right ahead. I haven't seen you in a while. You look well. Everything's good?
no complaints. Seriously, it's a reminder of our privilege just being able to work and be healthy. But
Yeah,
same thing to you. I
amen.
hope you and your family are good. And
Thank God. Yeah,
I'm
thank God. We're all good. Can't complain. I've been doing interviews all day, which is
I
why
can
I'm
imagine.
dressed. That's why I'm dressed from the neck up. But
It's all good. Do I still
I
have
did,
15
before
minutes?
we get officially started, I did do a number on Trump, though, no?
Quite impressive. So let's get into it. So 140 million votes were cast, and the votes are still coming in. Donald Trump has gotten over 68 million votes.
Mhm.
What does this say? What are your general thoughts, and what does this say about the state of America?
Well, I mean, I'll say some macro things. I'm very pleased that the voter turnout. It'll look like 67% of the vote is participation. That's a very high number for the U.S., biggest number since 1908. I would say, as it relates to President Trump's voter count, I think it will go over 70 million, Ash, once you add up everything and all the states are finally tabulated. And that is a historic number because it'll put him at number two. Obviously, the Vice President Biden being ahead of him, but he's ahead of the 2008 Barack Obama totals. And so that tells you something about President Trump. Whether you like him or dislike him, he is a political beast. He has a pulse on what's going on in the society for a very large group of people in the United States. And if you're somebody like me that would like to end demagoguery and end populism and nationalism as a movement, not saying I don't respect people and I don't want those people empowered, but I do know when those people feel plugged into the system and they feel the system is working for them and their families, you don't have those anger-based movements. What we typically find is that anger-based movements end in some kind of desperate historic event. You could read The Guns of August, you could study interwar Germany, and you know that these things do not end well. So putting Mr. Trump out of the White House, which I predict will happen very shortly, will be a good thing for America. It'll probably give us an opportunity to heal, but it won't be the last thing for America. He could be a political force. That voter count that he just tallied could also make his acolytes, these younger people in the Republican Party that see themselves as president, more Trumpy or Trumpier than Mr. Trump. And that has me worried because, again, I think that there's a specter of danger in that when you're going in that direction. So what I'm hoping is we can develop a platform or a package of healing policies that can have these people re-engage with the society. What you know from psychology, Ash, is that if I'm not doing well and I'm a blue collar worker and I feel like I'm being disadvantaged by the system, I'm prone to conspiracy theory. And unfortunately, we have a president who's been throwing Duraflame logs on that sort of nonsense for the last couple of years. And it was important, I think. I tried to stay loyal to him. You remember our interviews when I was still loyal to him. I tried to stay loyal to him. It became an impossibility due to what he was doing and how he was hurting our society. But let me tell you something. If there's 75 million people, or let's call it 70, that are willing to vote for him after he mishandled the pandemic, destroyed the U.S. economy, attacked democratic leaders of the West, and praised despots, we better wake up. There's something going on in our society that we need to address. As for the vice president, let's go over what he did, because I think these people are wrong in denigrating the pollsters. The vice president, if these numbers that he's tallied were posted up at 11:59 p.m. on election night, everybody would be like, wow. The fact that there was a delay, and some of that delay is born from the pandemic, people are like a little confused and so forth. But no, this is an outstanding election. Let's go over it. He has flipped 4 to 5 states. He brought with him the first African American female vice president, which will be a historic event. He got the highest vote total. And the last thing, which I think is probably the most impressive thing, he ran a disciplined campaign that people were quite critical of, but ultimately it was the antidote to Trumpism in America. And he stayed away from the president's nicknaming and his off-color remarks and his ad hominem attacks. And so for those reasons, I'm hoping he can take that campaign and convert it into a transformative presidential leadership style that won't be necessarily about left or right policy, but more about what's right or wrong for America. So all in all, I'm very pleased with the way things happened.
I'll agree. Couple questions related. What can Americans expect from 2020 to 2024? And I guess the flip point to that is Trumpism, and what is the future of the GOP? And are we bracing ourselves for a Trump Ivanka ticket in 2024?
You mean Donald Trump and Ivanka running together on the same ticket? Is that what you're
Possibly, yeah.
suggesting?
But what can we expect in the next 4 years, and where
Oh,
will
well,
that
listen, I
take?
mean, if he had won the presidency this time, because of the nature of his personality, could he have thrown Vice President Pence off the ticket in a few years and replaced him with Ivanka Trump and then resigned from the presidency? He made her the first woman president. That's quite possible. He could have done something like that. Yeah, I think the family is very politically motivated. You'll have to tell me what's going on with the criminal investigations in the city of New York and the state of New York. And then you'll have to tell me about the federal investigations that they're under and what's going on with his income tax and so forth. And so if he's cleared on all those things, and let's give him the benefit of the doubt, I'm a rule of law guy and I believe in the presumption of innocence for people. So let's clear him on all those things. Then I think he's probably thinking about a media enterprise, and he's probably thinking about a Trumpist movement. And knowing his personality as well as I do, could he declare himself a candidate for the presidency on January 20th of 2021 for 2024? And I believe the answer is yes, because what happens is you can open up the fundraising spigot. That fundraising spigot is open. You can use that to fly around the country and stage your rallies. And all of a sudden, he is still a fairly formidable leader. He will say that the election was stolen from him and that the swamp stole it from him. And he was I'm fighting for you, but they're fighting against you and they're coming at me because they really don't like you. All of that grievance narrative he will continue to profess. And since what we've learned about the Republican Party is that they're more concerned about their personal power and they're more concerned about their personal self-aggrandizement than they are the country or any semblance of patriotism, they may go along with it. If you told me that him and Mark Burnett got together and they had a new reality show, The Apprentice White House edition, and he was going to audition people for the White House, that wouldn't surprise me. Although I would say that's less likely because I see him just re-announcing his candidacy for the presidency. And that'll put a whole monkey wrench into the lives of these younger Republicans that all see themselves as president. So we'll have to see what happens. But I mean, look, he's going to be with us for a while, and he is a beast politically. He cannot be underestimated. I've told his adversaries he's way smarter than you would like to think he is. He may not be able to read as well as you. He may not have as many books in his house as you do. But that doesn't mean he's not assimilating information and data. Doesn't have great political instincts. He does.
So describe to us America over the next 4 years. What's the mood?
So America has a very large group of people, like Western Europe, that feel left out of the system. America has a group of people that feel threatened by immigrants. America has a group of people that are now worried. They think that their children are going to do worse than they're doing. My parents thought, well, my children are going to do better than I'm doing because I'm doing better than my parents, and you had this trajectory and this slope upward, and America has been blunted by the pandemic. People can say whatever they want. It's interesting. The areas of the country that were affected most by the pandemic, you would have thought that those people would have turned against Mr. Trump because the way he handled the pandemic, they actually increased their vote totals versus last time. So that's telling you something about these people. That's telling you about where they are in our society right now. And so it's a society that has a culture war. I believe that's a false narrative, by the way. I mean, I'm not telling you how to live your life. You're not telling me how to live my life. I don't decide how the North Dakotans live their life any more than they're talking about my life here on Long Island. And so, but yet the media has people believing that guys like Mr. Trump are white men that are preventing the latte drinking hordes of Hispanic and Black transvestites from coming up over the transom and taking over the government and the culture. Okay, that's exactly what they're telling them on these news channels. And they're, okay, you can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. I can't have that happen. And so we're at an inflection point as it relates to race in the society. It was one thing 55 years ago to get the Voting Rights Act passed and to talk about the initiatives related to racism. And then what happened was that got absorbed into the system, and the system then became more institutionalized in terms of its racism. Sure, you can vote, but you're going to have access to 1/10 of the capital of a white person. Sure, you can vote, but your school systems are going to be uneven. It's going to be very hard for you to get your kids educated in good public school systems. Sure, you can vote, but God damn it, if you're stopping for gas somewhere in the South and it's late at night, I think you may be trying to steal something from my gas station. I may shoot at you, or I may rough you up at a police stop, or so forth. And so that stuff is now coming to fray. Our phones are transforming the world because they're little movie studios, they're little radio companies, they're little TV stations. And so when a white police officer is kneeing somebody in the neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and you can watch somebody expire from a brutal murder over the internet or on YouTube, it is transforming with great glare and great sunlight what is going on in the society. And so for me, that's going to require transformative leadership. If somebody asked me, is there institutional racism? The answer is yes. You're asking someone like Susan Collins, she doesn't see it. Donald Trump doesn't see it. Well, chances are those people have never had anything racially biased done to them. And so this is where we are in the United States right now, Ash. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm an optimist. It requires leadership, though. It requires people to talk to people in a way that get them to the better side of themselves, as opposed to what Mr. Trump has done is make them think about the demonic sides of themselves.
I know we have a couple
It's
minutes
angel
left.
versus demon,
Oh, I know all about those vices and virtues. A couple of minutes left. So one question that touches on more near-term future. Usually there's a natural, peaceful transition of power with Donald Trump. God knows what to expect. Do you think there's an incentive from Democrats or whomever to do a kind of Faustian bargain to say, we'll give you some indemnities against, we'll indemnify you against some of these possible trials and court cases for you to get out now? Is that even of interest to Democrats?
Well, I don't know if it's of interest to them, but that's the setup right now. This guy's not stupid. Okay, he wasn't even really running. He was running half-heartedly towards the end. Those were a relitigation of the Mueller report and Hillary Clinton's emails. He wasn't really talking about what he was going to do for America in the future. He had looked at the polling landscape and saw pretty clearly that he was going to lose. And he didn't overperform, by the way, despite what everybody was saying. It took a while to get all the votes tabulated. That's what everybody said. And so that's where we are right now. The expectation was he was going to lose. He will lose. That's my prediction. And so you'll be sitting here. His play right now is to use this political chit and power to flex his muscles and say, yeah, I'm going to give everybody a hard time unless you give me what I want. And that's what he's been about his whole life. So I do see that happen.
In a few seconds, and last question, what is Donald Trump thinking right now as those votes are being evaporated and the leads, say, in Georgia and Pennsylvania are shrinking? What is he thinking right now?
He's a little bit of denial. He's frustrated. He definitely is a little delusional. So he's probably believing that this is being stolen from him. He's probably believing that conspiracy narrative. I find it very ironic that they want the vote count to continue in certain states, but they want to blunt and stop the vote count in other states. And so it's very Jim Crowish, if you will. And I think it's very, I'll say something optimistic. He is so blatantly transparent with his racism. He is so blatantly transparent with his abrogation of the idea of the American democracy. He is so amoral that I'm hoping that will send alarm bells off to everybody, and we'll start to figure out a way to refortify these institutions and shore up these institutions of our democracy. In a weird way, I said something the other day, which I really believe. He has ironically united all of us, Ash. He just happens to be uniting us against him. You know, think of the coalition of people that beat him. And yes, he got a lot of votes, no question about it. But you know what? The vice president got more votes, and that's how this thing works. And hopefully he can turn the tide on this and begin the healing process that America sorely needs.
Thank you for your time. My 15 minutes are up. You guys, Americans, like a good comeback story, and we're rooting for you, and we're very, very relieved with what happened. We need.
Well, yeah, thank you. Listen, I love the country as you do, and so I felt it was important to speak out about it. And a lot of people said to me that I was crazy to do so. When I first started speaking out against Mr. Trump, he had his highest approval ratings, highest poll numbers, and I was told I was on a kamikaze mission. It turned out it was a battalion and a squadron when we were finished. And so hopefully now we can begin the process of healing the country.
The definition of service for the country means many things when you enter in your world. And I do think it does play a part. Definitely. Thank you.
Well, all right. We'll see you soon.
God bless.
I love your room rating, by the way. You look great.
Thank you.